Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and yesterday was yet another national final in this year's Eurovision season, which started admittedly late, but that's got nothing to do with anything. It was, of course, the national selection of Belarus, and I mean, at least they got it over with quickly, but otherwise I wasn't too impressed with their national final, because they did say earlier in the year, oh, we're going to make a big effort to promote the Belarusian language, and then in the final, there were 10 songs, and 9 of them were in English. Well done, Belarus, you succeeded in your mission statement. But in the end, they went with Alexander Ivanov, or Ivan as he was called in the show. Is it Ivanov? I know his stage name Ivan is pronounced Ivan, that's how they pronounced it in the show anyway. I did have a feeling that he would win the national final, considering that he also won some covert other national final last year to represent Russia in the never-to-actually-take-place revival of the Intervision Song Contest. Yep, this is the same guy. And his song is called Help You Fly, or Help Me Fly as it was reported on Eurovision.tv, or How to Fly as it was called before. In any case, it's in English, so it doesn't need me to translate it for you, and it's definitely a song. So, my initial thoughts on this one. I was left with a strong first impression, personally. Perhaps, if only because it was the first decent song of the national final, in my opinion, because I wasn't impressed with the first 6 songs. But social media seems to absolutely hate this guy, and honestly, I don't understand why. The song itself is pretty okay, and in the national final at least he had a competent idea of how to stage it. Just upscale that for the stage in Stockholm, tart it up a little, and it could be one hell of a spectacle. Okay, perhaps his voice is a little bit gravelly, and perhaps the song is a bit repetitive, but overall, I like it. I don't think it's the worst one this year, and that's saying a fair amount considering we've only got, 4 or 5 songs at this point? That said, I do predict, and to an extent expect, that they're going to overhaul the song before it reaches Stockholm, because Belarus is kind of fond of that, either changing the song outright before getting to the contest, or, as I've done more recently, just making some adjustments to the song, which most countries do, that's normal. So between that and some intensive rehearsals so he sounds a little more engaged while performing, I think they've got a decent act on their hands. This, almost, with a slightly different instrumentation, this would probably sound like something that the redoubtable Bentley Jones would perform. It's not exactly his style, but he could make it his style. But we're not talking about him, we're talking about Alexander Ivanov. Ivan. Talk about Ivan. So, what are the good points of this song? Well, it's got a good, strong beat that doesn't get in the way. It ties the song together nicely, because sometimes if you have a song with a strong beat, it'll dominate and take over. In this case, it doesn't. It ties it together in a nice little beat-shaped ribbon. And the overall tone of the song is darkish, but decidedly uplifting and hopeful. The message and all that. It does it a lot of favours, because it's not quite as overused of a basis for a song. Make no mistake, it's by no means an original idea. I mean, it's more or less the same kind of message as Slovenia last year, but it's not a direct rip-off of anything else that already exists. Rather, it's something that fits into an existing predefined pigeonhole in the way that any normal song would or should. That's the point, I suppose. It's a normal song. It doesn't try to do anything amazingly special, because it doesn't have ideas above its station. Ivan knows what his song is and what it's capable of, and he doesn't try to push it too far, and he doesn't try to push it in the wrong direction. So, it's a song handled by a singer who knows how to handle songs. And also, I like the guitar. Can I just be derpy and say that? I like how it includes a guitar. Now, the bad points, or as I like to call it, constructive criticism, because I've noticed that all of my bad points so far, or at least most of them, tend to be things that the artist can work on before the show, so it's, the good points will stick with the song forever. Bad points can be fixed. So I include it so that it's a balanced review. Every song will have constructive criticism. So for the moment, his live vocals do seem a little bit weak. His voice sounds a little bit hoarse or gravelly or something, which makes it seem less powerful than it could potentially be. And this song demands a powerful voice to drive it home properly. On top of that, his stage presence isn't quite as impressive as the song needs either. And both of these things are things that he can and will work on before the contest, so I don't expect them to be persisting problems. It's just, for the moment, his voice sounds a little bit too gravelly. His stage presence is, well, he's got the choreography, he just kind of needs a bit more in the way of visual oomph, I suppose. He needs to be a bit more in the zone. But as I said, that's something that he can work on. The only long-term problem that really needs addressing, and I don't know how it can be addressed without changing the song completely, and perhaps even changing the singer along with it, which I don't recommend they do, is the fact that a good chunk of the public absolutely hate this song, and I don't know why. I mean, to be fair, a good chunk of the public also love the song because it's the Intervision guy, but a lot of people hate it. And I don't even know if that qualifies as a bad point. It kind of is the song's fault because the song is what it is, but it also kind of isn't because I have no idea why people dislike it so much. I was watching the Twitter feed while I was watching the Belarusian national final, and when they announced that Ivan had won, there were all these people saying, oh no, worst choice, oh bye-bye Belarus, no grand final feel. Like, it's kind of rude. It's not a bad song. I don't know what to say. So, how would I rate it out of 10? Well, I don't want to sound too much like a broken record, but I'm going to give this one a 7 as well. But note that while Belgium was a low 7 and Ireland was a high 7, this is more of a middle 7. So as Eurovision songs go, it's definitely not the worst, not of this year, not ever. And I do think it's pleasant enough. It certainly won't be boring on the night. But if he doesn't work on his act, it might come across as a bit dull. But do note the difference. A boring song would put you to sleep with its performance. A dull song might be completely okay to listen to, but just fails to impress. And there's a fair amount at stake with this one, so Belarus should play it carefully. They might do better than social media would have you think. They just have to be careful that on the night they impress, because that's kind of where time fell short last year. It was a great song, but the live performance should have impressed but didn't, for some intangible, inexplicable reason, and so it didn't do well. Which glides in nicely to the idea of how does it stack up to last year's song. It is a tough call, because this year's song, Help You Fly, it's inspiring, it's meaningful, whereas last year's was, instead of that, a bit more throwaway, but generally happier and a bit more lively. So both are equally catchy, but in completely different ways, but I think, given how close they are, my personal preference would be to favour Yuzari and Maimuna, just because their song was more vivacious and happy sounding, making this one sound a little bit less impressive by contrast, but they're both still really good. I do like them both. I would listen to either of them quite happily. So Belarus is generally a pretty good country for decent Eurovision songs, even if the statistics don't reflect that in the slightest. Now, do I think it will qualify? Despite all the good things I've had to say about it, I'm not entirely convinced at the moment. At least, not the way the song is now. For whatever reason, there's a lot of negative sentiment towards this one. If the public don't get behind the song, that as good as halves how many points it's going to get on the night, and that decimates any chance of it qualifying. Honestly, that saddens me, because this is by no means the worst song I've ever heard, not this year, not out of any Eurovision song ever. It's definitely not deserving of all the hate it's received, but unless they re-release the song later in the year with some kind of new arrangement, kind of like Malta did last year, or go over the top and replace the song completely like Belarus likes to do, the public probably won't let this one slip into the final. And considering Belarus have sent songs of equal or greater quality in the past and not qualified, and I would list all the times that applies to here, but the more I think about it, the more it applies to every single time Belarus has failed to qualify, it wouldn't surprise me if this doesn't make it either. But I can hope, because it's a decent song. I do enjoy it. It's not bad, but a load of people hate it for some reason. So, I will say, good luck to you, Belarus. Apparently you're gonna need the wishes of good luck, but I sincerely do wish you good luck. You've picked a good song. There were a lot of wrong answers in that national final, and you picked a right answer, so here's hoping. Here's hoping you'll do well in Stockholm.